We'd like to thank Judy Berger, who is dedicating and sponsoring this short Dvar Torah. It's in loving memory of her father, Anshel Osher ben Yosef HaKohen. And we hope and we pray, we daven that in the schut of the Divrei Torah, that her father should have an aliyah began Eden amongst other schuyot that he has. In Parshat Bo, Hashem tells Moshe to come to Paro and to warn him about the coming plague of locusts. And then the Torah says that, gives a reason how come Hashem is bringing 10 plagues amongst to the Egyptian people. He could have just brought about events in which Bnei Israel would be released after 1 or 2 plagues. And the Torah says that over and above the plagues being a punishment for the Egyptians, for what they did to the Jewish people, it says, the whole purpose of the plagues is that they become part of the collective memory of the Jewish people, and that the Jewish people will relate to their children and to their children's children, how Hashem has harried the Egyptians. So we see from over here that there's a mitzvah, and we perform this mitzvah on the night of the Seder. We engage in the Sipur of Yetziat Mitzrayim, in which we relate to all the events that happened just prior to the Exodus and on that great night, as the Rambam tells us. There's a very famous discussion. If this is a mitzvah, that we have to relate the plagues and everything that happened up to and during the Exodus, how come then on the night of the Seder we don't make a bracha, we don't recite a bracha, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kirshanu b'todah v'tzivanu al mitzvah tzipur yetziat Mitzrayim. Why don't we make such a bracha? Before we begin now to relate the Haggadah, we should make a bracha that we were commanded to tell this story to our children and to our children's children, and then proceed with the Haggadah. There's many answers to this, and I wanted to highlight 2, which are actually totally diametrical opposite the one of the other. The one explanation, I would say almost it's a straightforward explanation, is because we only say mitzvot on things which are, I wouldn't say that they're irrational, but they're things that we wouldn't have gotten to through our own deductive reasoning. We only make a bracha on mitzvot that are divine, not something which is like human, but that's the nusach of the bracha. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu sanctified us. He gave us something which was unique, which is not really common to the rest of humanity. So therefore, I've spoken about it before. We don't make a bracha before I make a cup of tea for my mother. I don't say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kirshanu b'todah v'tzivanu al mitzvah kibud av va'em. And the reason is because this mitzvah of kibud av va'em is not unique to us being Jewish and getting the Torah. Every person, by virtue of him being created b'tzelem Elokim, every human being has to honor his parents. So therefore, we don't use that language, Asher kirshanu. He sanctified us. He gave us something over and above when every single human being has to do such a thing. So to go and relate on the night of the Seder something which is so elementary, that this historic event of the Jewish people coming out of Egypt, it's so wonderful, it's so wondrous. It deserves that we would relate all the miracles that happened at the birth of our Jewish people. So this is something that it's so simple, so rational, that that's what we should do. So we don't recite the bracha of Asher kirshanu b'todah v'tzivanu, or let's say mitzvah tzipur yetziat Mitzrayim. But at the other extreme, with exactly opposite logic, the Maharal says something totally different. He says, we don't recite a bracha on the mitzvah of Sipur because it's so difficult to perform. We're not sure if we're able to actually to do justice to the story. So therefore, we don't recite a bracha because it might be a bracha in vain. because we might not tell the story properly. Why not? Because you can see that the end of the pasuk, when we speak about the story, the pasuk says as follows. You have to tell the story. You have to make it very clear, because it emphasizes Bo'oznei bincha or ben bincha. You have to almost put it into their ears, that they hear carefully. The children, your children's children. And then it ends off, Vidatem ki ani Hashem. Vidatem ki ani Hashem is, and then you will know that I'm Hashem. And by the way, Vidatem ki ani Hashem is mentioned in plural, not in singular. In other words, what the pasuk is saying is that the Torah is hoping that by the time you finish telling the story, not only will your children know that there is Hashem, but you, the person who's telling the story, Vidatem, you, plural, you also be impacted by telling the story, that you will come now to realize there's Hashem. So what the Maharal is actually saying is like this: the mitzvah of Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim is not just merely that I tell a couple of facts and I tell the bare facts. I have to understand what's behind the facts. I have to come to the conclusion, and when I speak about this historical event, that it is Mosif Emunah, that it galvanizes and strengthens and clarifies our faith. And who says that will actually take place? Will we actually be able to look at a historical event as a historical event like Yetziat Mitzrayim and be able to analyze it in such a way that we see the hand of Hashem in everything, and that we come out of the Seder night people who are different because we understand and we see the hand of God in history? The Maharal says that's not so simple. And therefore we don't make a bracha, because we might not actually have gotten and been successful in doing that. It's actually a very frightening and jarring Maharal. But here we have it, that the point over here of the Sipur of Yetziat Mitzrayim is not merely to tell the tale, and it extends to everything that happens even today. That when we look at events, we read the newspapers, we see things that are unfolding in front of us. How do we tell the narrative of what's happening to the Jewish people? Is it something that we just tell stories, or do the stories and the way that we look at events, does it bolster our emunah in Hashem? Do we see the constant hand of history, a hand of Hashem in history? As my rabbi Rabbi Ilevitz Zatzal used to quote the Midrash, it says that Vayishpot Yom HaShvi'i, Hashem rested on the seventh day. The Midrash says he rested on the seventh day from the process of nature, the physical world. But the world of history, being involved in human affairs, that Hashem didn't stop. And the whole point is, the Maharal is saying that it's actually not so simple to tell the story. To tell the story, we have to get to a stage, Bezrat Hashem, that when we tell the facts and we delve into all the details, that we come to V'yadetem ki ani Hashem, that we impact on us, that we know that Hashem is here with us, the Jewish people in history.